sir. Yes, sir. And we are back. Had a little hiatus the past week,
Can't hear
but
you. I'm gonna sign
we
off.
no worries, no worries. And welcome to Sports Talk with Grant, Marsell, and Najee is currently at a wedding right now, so he will be back next week. But the show goes on, and we come at you with the best sports talk. So tune in every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Uh, so today we have a really good main topic. Just really, we're going to be comparing the modern era and the older era, comparing just the skill and everything that goes in between there. So we'll talk about that. But first, like always, we're going to tune into the updated playoff standings, a really good series going on right now. And then we'll dive into the main topic. Tonight, we have the Knicks and the Spurs game 5. The Knicks have a chance to close it out and get the job done. Um, I mean, it's safe to say that the
Oh,
Knicks,
you gotta
their
be kidding me,
experience
man.
is
Come
really
on.
has really taken a hold of the series. The Spurs have had multiple big leads, in many of the games, and just completely just fumbled the bag on a lot of these games. And it just shows you the value of experience when it comes to these playoff series. Me personally, I had the Spurs in 6 going into this series. I just thought that their talent and for me, like the Spurs, their youth hadn't really shown like throughout the playoffs. Like, they've been down in series and came back and they've been composed. So for me, it was like, I see their youth and it's not really showing. It looks like, a lot of these guys are veterans on the Spurs, but now you're seeing their youth really show in this finals. And it's looking like the Knicks are going to win a championship from the looks of it.
Yeah, you know, I look at the inexperience in the coaching staff, in the head coach for the Spurs, as well as um, and moments in games. I see it in the players. Uh, you know, I think they've had a lead in every game, haven't they?
Every
Double
game.
digit
Yep.
lead.
Yep.
So from where I'm sitting at, and on the flip side, the Knicks have been through it. They've been in games where they've been down. I mean, I hate to say it, but last year against my Celtics, man, in two
Yep.
games they were down about 20 plus points in Boston and came back and won those games. And then you go back to the Cleveland series, did the same thing. So, yeah, this Knick team is battle tested. They've been on both sides of it. They got that experience, and I believe that Mike Brown at the helm. I think I don't think he get enough credit, but he has coached his butt off in the playoffs. And
Absolutely.
game four, man, at being down by 29 at halftime, and then coming
Yep.
back and winning that game. Hey, it's their time.
It is. He said, "This is the weirdest finals I've
Man,
seen
I can't.
Spurs."
Can you hear me? I can't hear you. You keep going out on me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, I'm gonna check out again and check back in.
All right. Nug said, "This is the weirdest
Hold on, let me see
finals
something.
I've seen. Spurs could have swept. It's on the coach. Pop wouldn't allow these finals."
Yeah, I can't
Uh,
hear. So I'm
yeah.
gonna
I mean,
check out again.
okay. Yeah. I mean, honestly, man, like this is just stuff that you have to really like when you have these leads, you have to lock in. And when you have advantages, you have to take advantage of them in the playoffs. And the Spurs, for some reason, they just take their foot off the gas and they don't capitalize when they have these leads. And it is weird. I mean, you can make an argument that the Spurs, could be up in this series, but unfortunately, that's just not how it works in sports. One team is going to lose, one team is going to win. And, um, it's looking like the Spurs really needed to like just lock in and it's tough because they're not experienced. They have like maybe one other veteran and Harrison Barnes on the team, but they're definitely going to learn from their mistakes. I think they're going to come out very strong this game. I think there's a really high likelihood that the Spurs will win this game. I just feel like, they're going to be like backed into a corner, a wounded wolf. But you're down 3-1, so it's like statistically they're probably not going to win this final. So, but I think that the Spurs will win tonight, and it's going to be a good one coming on soon. And but if you look at the Spurs, I mean Dylan Harper. I am looking at this kid, Dylan Harper, rookie, rookie class. I mean, second pick in the draft, and this dude looks like he's been in the league for 5+ years, been in tough moments, and he's just shooting. I mean, he's playing better than Fox in a lot of situations. Fox has shown up. Obviously, in that last game, that last layup, you obviously should have dribbled that out. I don't know what Fox was thinking there, but this series has been very, very weird, and I think that if the Spurs really want to make this a series, they just got to just come out with their back against the wall and just lock in.
Yeah, I still can't hear you, but I heard a little bit of it, what you were saying, and the Spurs are having difficulty with in spurts.
Yeah.
They'll come out and they can't sustain. They're not sustaining. And go back to game 4. Game 4, you're up 29. And I was sitting and watching the game, and I said, okay. I said, right now they're hitting. I said, but me personally, I'd rather struggle in the first and hit struggle early, finish late, hit later.
Right.
And they came out in the second half, and what was falling in the first half wasn't falling in the second half. And they just kept, 8 straight threes, not attacking the basket, with Wemby, he also played, but he played 44 minutes in that game. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time for, for a guy that's used to playing anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes a night,
Exactly.
And just keep in mind with the experience factor, this is the first time that team has, I believe, been in the playoffs as a team together, and B, they're in the finals, man. So this is the further you go, the more difficult it gets and the more pressure that comes down on you. And with that being said, Mitch Johnson, I think that's his name, the coach.
Yeah.
It's his first time too, man. So they're all learning right now. But I will say this, they will be back for years to come. But I think that right now, Game 5, going back on what the Knicks have done all year, all playoff long, they up like this. They come back from a game where they were down, where they should have lost the game. They came back and won it, a la Cleveland series. They're going to come out tomorrow and they're going to finish this thing off. That's in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think, looking at the Knicks side of things, Brunson, he hasn't really been the best Knick, in my opinion, in this series. Like Brunson, he's had some flashes here or there, but like this is the guy who everyone's looking at as like, he's the number one on the Knicks. He's the guy who is supposed to lead them to the championship. And, for me, if the Knicks win the finals, is Brunson, as of right now, is Brunson your finals MVP?
No.
Yeah.
No, OG is. And I'm a Bronson guy.
Right.
Now I will say, but then again, we don't have a vote in it. And the way the vote normally goes is it's based on offense, who scored the most points, right?
Right.
I believe he's averaged 27 in the series.
Yep.
Excuse me, he had his best game in game 4. But he said before the game that he was trending up, and it showed in game 4. But right now, I would have to say OG, because OG is playing a complete game. He's not only is he scoring, but the guy's rebounding the ball. He's defending like crazy, and and just the blocks that he's getting, it just, I mean, at the most crucial times in games, he's coming up with some big plays, man.
Yeah.
So I say OG.
Yeah, OG, he's looking kind of like Kawhi Leonard-ish in terms of, hitting shots, defending. Um, it's looking like, I mean, for me, like, because I've seen the Knicks games throughout the regular season, the playoffs. He just seems like their most consistent guy on a lot of nights, you know, even more than Cat sometimes as well. Like Cat has been, he had a couple of good games and then he like dipped off, but like OG, man, we really need to be talking about OG and Anunoby more. Um, he's coming in clutch, and I agree. I think, depending on how things go tonight and going forward, I think OG and Anunoby would be the Finals MVP for the Knicks. So I mean, it's crazy, man. It's looking like the Knicks are going to win the championship, and at the beginning of the year, I don't. A lot of people never really thought that the Knicks were going to get there. I mean, obviously they've been in the mix, but it's crazy. It's crazy, but New York is doing their thing, and we'll see what happens tonight. So Marsell, do you have the Knicks winning tonight in 6 and 7? What do you think?
Oh, it's done, man.
It's done.
A gentleman's sweep, as they say. 5-4-1.
Yeah.
I just think that when you play the way that the Spurs have played, and you lose the way they lost game 4, that takes a lot out of you mentally.
Yeah.
And right now they're shook. Mobb Deep had a song called "Shook Ones." Well, they the shook ones. But yeah, I just think that coupled with the Knick experience, and they can just taste it, they can smell it. And I know they wanted to do it on their home floor, but at the same time, it's even better when you do it on your opponent's floor.
Facts.
So yeah, I see the Knicks coming out, and remember now, just keep in mind, the Knicks have not played a complete game of basketball where they're playing their best ball, and I think Game 5 is going to be the game where they're going to be hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, man. I mean, losing that game, the Spurs last game, like. You're right. You brought up the psychological aspect of that. Like, these guys, some of these guys do probably feel defeated. Obviously they're going to come out and fight, but for the most part, it's like, dang, like now we're down 3-1. Obviously it's a deficit that can be overcame, but it's like the likelihood of it is it's not likely. And the Spurs are gonna, granted, if they do lose the series, they're going to have a lot to look back at and be like, okay, we got to learn how to keep these leads. We got to learn how to keep our foot on the gas and not go away from what was working, not going away from the sets that were working. And Wemby, I think when he plays aggressive and he starts inside, it's a much different ball game. It's a much different type of threat than just taking those threes. We know he can hit those threes. We know how talented he is, but starting inside is just better. I mean, you talked about it for years, start inside out. Obviously it's not the same anymore because, basketball has changed in the NBA and stuff like that. But if you're 7'5", man, start in the inside, work, go inside. And then obviously you're going to get your threes and then it'll come from there. The Spurs, obviously Dylan Harper is going to be there. That kid he's wowed me. I mean, that does not look like a rookie at all. He's going to be special. They have the 6th man of the year in Keldon Johnson. He's still going to be there. Fox, Castle. So, the Spurs do have a lot to. I mean, they weren't even supposed to be here, really. If you think about it, they were not supposed to be here, and they are. So, a lot to look forward to in the NBA, and I think the Spurs will win tonight, but I see them going out in 6. Losing that last game was tough, so we'll see. The game's
Yeah,
coming on in 15 minutes, so yeah.
yeah. Well, and I think also if the Knicks come out and jump on the Spurs, it's
Yeah,
done. It's done because you coming in the game and you got I'm not gonna call it false confidence, but you got you're shaking.
yeah,
The minute you start to see some adversity during that game, it's going to start to wane on you, and before you know it, the game's over at halftime. And believe you me, the Knicks are not going to do what the Spurs did and give up a
no,
big lead at the end of the second half, because they see the prize at the end. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, but as far as the Spurs go, they got one kid on that team that I like. They got they got 4 or 5 guys I like on the team. But that young cat, is it Carter Bryant? Is that his name? Number
yeah,
11?
light skinned dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He is going to be good. He's going to be good. And like I said, they got pieces. They just need, I think that they need some veteran leadership on the bench.
yeah,
That's the first thing from the player perspective. The second thing from the player perspective is Wemby's got to learn to pick his spots. He's got to play inside more. And when you get somebody on you that can't guard you, that's too slow or whatever, too small. If you want to go out mid-range, get a mid-range jump shot. That free throw line, post up there, get the ball, and go to work from there. In my mind and the way I look at the game, he should take 2 to 4 threes a game.
right.
And that all depends on if you hit one out of the first 2, all right, shoot a third one, shoot a fourth one, but don't make that your game though. Go down there and utilize. He has exceptional footwork in the post. Go down there and post up. Plus, they got W now. Guess what? You got shooters on the outside. Now you're going inside, outside. So I mean, it's just the game is not rocket science. He's just I think he's gonna figure it out. You got 2 Hall of Famers that played before you, and
Right.
Duncan and David Robinson. And I can assure you that this summer they're gonna be having some conversations with him. So
Yeah. It's I mean, what Wemby's like 20, 22,
22. He's young. He's a puppy.
Yeah, very young.
He's young, man. Look, he got 12 years ahead of him.
Yeah, and we really just hope that he stays healthy, and
Oh yeah.
That the Spurs medical staff, stays up to par and does everything they can to keep him up. So we got a lot to look forward to. Game coming on soon, so we'll definitely tune into that after this podcast. But so yeah, Marsell, I sent you the topic, and I really wanted to talk to you about this because you've seen it all. You've seen the different eras and how things have changed, and I think it's an interesting topic. Talking about the talent discrepancy and the physicality and the changes. So would you say like today's NBA is the most skilled it's ever been? I mean, you got guys 7 feet shooting threes, can handle the ball. What would you say about the talent nowadays, in the NBA?
To me, it's hard to say that they're more skilled than back in the day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the guys back in the day had them skills too. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, to be exact. He could handle the ball. He could run the floor. He could shoot. He could shoot the jump shot. But the game was different back then, and he had a signature move that could no one stop.
Yeah.
Right. You look at the guard play. Isaiah Thomas. I mean, what would he be doing in today's game?
He would still be going crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no hand check. So, but I also think that, and this is just me, I'm a little biased, I guess, but back in the day, You had to earn. You had to earn it. You had to earn it. Today's game, these guys, they're giving it. They're giving right away. They're giving it. They're giving all the money, which
Yeah.
I'm not knocking the money. The money. I mean, hey, get your money. But at the same time, my biggest question about today's ball players, as far as they can be as skilled as they want, but do they love the game, or do they love what the game can do for them? The money.
Mm.
Because you don't see guys getting, if you don't see guys going from here to here to here to here, you see guys staying here. Their game isn't progressing.
Yeah.
The way that it should. Now you see there's some guys you see like, oh yeah, oh he added that to his game this year, and I honestly don't think they play enough. Before they get into the league, I don't think they play enough. Meaning getting out there and getting beat up and playing and learning how to play through contact and this, that, and the other. Because that's another thing I think that's ruined the game. Is the game is so much it's much more floor space now. Where if you listen to the European ball players talk, they say it's easy to score in the NBA. The European leagues are more physical than the NBA is. So, but as far as skills are concerned, every guy that played the game back in the day, they had to learn how to handle the ball. They had to handle the ball. They had to shoot the ball. They had to do everything that they're doing today. The difference being, they weren't asked to do all of that because we had position. Today's game is positionless. If you got 5 guys out, you got one guy going in the post up every once in a while, but that's about it.
Right.
So the game has changed. So I really don't think that there's a difference in skill level. I just think that the game is just much different now than it was back then. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, you brought up a good point in terms of like, do these players actually like love the game, or do they just love what comes with, being an NBA player and signing that contract? And how you say like some of these players don't really try to progress or evolve their game. I look at a guy like Ben Simmons. Oh my gosh, man, that dude drove me crazy. Like,
great example.
Yeah, like, 6'9", super athletic, great passer, had all the talent in the world. And I don't know. You remember that one play in the playoffs where he had a wide open layup and then he just passed it. And then after that, it was like psychologically or something, like he just never stayed the same. He kept getting hurt. And, he got his check, he got his money. And then now it's like, where is Ben Simmons? Like he's nowhere to be found. So it's like, there's a lot of players like that who, they just don't, they get to a certain point and then it's just like, okay, I got my money, I got my commercials, I'm set, I'm good to go. So, the way the passion of the game, I get what you're saying, it has changed. Obviously, there are some guys who I mean, Giannis, you look at a guy like Giannis, I mean, you don't question his heart at all. I mean, that dude comes out and he's going 100 miles an hour every game. He has worked on his game a little bit. His jump shot has improved over the years a little bit, but obviously, he's not going to be like a crazy shooter, which he shouldn't. I mean, you're 7 feet, hyper athletic, very physical.
Yeah.
But I mean, the skill thing, it's tough, man, because, you have guys like Jokic who are, 7-footers who are legitimate. Like there's times where he's bringing up the ball. He's like a point center. He's probably one of the best passers I've ever seen, Jokic. And, you just didn't really see that in the NBA back then. There were talented bigs. I'm not going to question that. Hakeem is probably my favorite big of all time. The footwork, the ability to score. But, for me, it's just like it's being showcased a little bit more nowadays. And I just think that like the skill level, I mean, it's different, bro. It's different. Like everyone is a threat for the most part. Obviously there's the lob guys come in who set screens and roll to the basket. But for the most part, like if you're in the NBA now, if you're not a threat on the court offensively, especially if you're a guard, if you're on the perimeter, you're going to get played off the court and it's over. You know what I'm saying? Like versus like back then, like you could probably have a guy who is not a threat offensively. And if he just plays defense and stuff, then, everything will be okay and you'll still be able to win games. I think now you can't have a guy who's not a threat offensively. Even if he is a good defender, I feel like he would just get played off. I see a guy on my team in the Lakers, Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
He can't score. He's anemic offensively, which is crazy. Yeah. But he's a good defender, but we can't play him because he can't score.
Yeah. You know what though? There was one center, all right, Keela, that could do what Jokic is doing.
Yeah.
And that was Arvydas Sabonis. Stop. Samson!
Sabonis?
Yeah, Arvydas Sabonis, coach of the Trailblazers. That guy played. But when he got to the NBA, he was old though. He was old. He was He was at the end of his career.
Right.
Dogs, man. Keela, go lay down. But I think another problem with the NBA is, when I want to know if you can play from the neck up. Because you can have a lot of skills. You can be the most skilled ball player in the world. But does that make you a great basketball player? Do you know how to use those skills? That's like me going in the gym and shadow boxing and doing all that training and everything. It's a whole different thing when you get in that ring or when you get on that court and you got somebody that's on you that is as skilled as you are, as athletic as you are, as strong as you are. What's going to separate you from that ball player? You know how to use those skills. That's just I get it. I like it. I like the skill level, but how does that apply game situational things?
Yeah. Would you say because you brought up IQ, would you say like the IQ is higher nowadays? Like, do you feel like a lot of players, or do you think it's just more about skill, versus IQ?
I think it's more skill. I think there are a lot of guys that are skilled, but I question the IQ.
Right.
And I can tell you this, not to go back to it, but Jalen Brunson has a high basketball IQ. But
absolutely.
But it's very rare that you hear in today's basketball guys mentioning the IQ. You still have to be able to play the game here. Because the game has a lot of situations involved in it, shot clock, possessions, how many possessions, you know what I'm saying? It's like I said, it's something that isn't talked about a lot, is the basketball IQ. I like guys that can think the game, that can think the game 3, 4, 5 plays ahead. And understand situations, understand what your opponent's going to do, what he's not going to do. We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago about Shea, right? And getting fouled and this, that, and the other, right? So my response was, if you do your homework, you know what he likes to do. You know what he's going to do. He's going to pump fake. He's going to lean. He's going to bait you. And if you're doing your homework, okay, when he goes left, he's either going to pull up, he's going to step back, he's either going to finish, but he may fake that and then want to draw that foul.
Right.
You got to know situation. You got to know your opponent. So yeah. That's where I'm at with the skill thing. No, I just think that the IQ is more important, I think, than the skill, because you look back the day at Larry Bird. Larry Bird was the slowest cat on the floor, but he had this though. He understood the game.
Yeah, and a lot of toughness too. A lot of toughness. No, but I think, that's why LeBron is my GOAT, because of his IQ. You can say what you want about LeBron James, but hey, I mean, you can make an argument he's the smartest basketball player ever, man. I mean,
you just had to bring that up, didn't you?
This man, like, he's 10 steps ahead of everybody. You know, he knows all the plays. He knows the opponent's weaknesses. He knows their strengths. He exploits it. And he's the best passer he's probably the best passer that I've ever seen, LeBron James, and that takes a lot of IQ as well. Knowing the other team's defense and where they're going to be and where they're not going to be. You know, high IQ players like that. I mean, Jokic is another very high IQ player as well. Luka has a high IQ. Like, you are right though. Like, IQ is not talked about enough, unfortunately.
Passion.
So I think players do need to lock in more on the IQ aspect of the game, learning the plays, watching their own film and seeing how they can get better against other opposing defenses, knowing how the defense is going to guard them.
Yep.
And you brought up Shea drawing fouls. That's IQ as well. Knowing how the referees are going to be in a lot of situations. So if they can lock in, IQ is, I think IQ, you can make an argument that, obviously you want to work on your skills, you want to get better and better, but, IQ needs to be at the top of your priority list when you're going out there and you're trying to win basketball games, because you could easily get exploited if, you're not going by the game plan, you're not exposing the other team's weaknesses. So I think IQ definitely needs to be a higher priority with all these players instead of just, wanting to be able to shoot the best and score and things like that. So yeah, that's a good point with
and that comes, and you build that IQ by playing.
That's true.
Playing and not playing, games. You got to get out and play pickup ball. You got to get out and play against guys that are better than you are. And it starts at the younger ages. Go down to the parks and play. You're playing against grown men when you're 15, 16 years old. That's when you're learning. You're learning, you're learning how to navigate the game, how to think the game. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you can't think it, you're going to be limited, So, but yeah, Michael Jordan's the GOAT, but that's another whole nother
and get out of here. Get out of here. We're gonna have to have a full episode about that. So
yeah, I mean, again, I get what you're saying about LeBron. I do, but I just look at just how this cat changed the game, man, and
he did.
And
I'm not gonna lie.
And just his competitiveness, his will to win.
Yeah, and he would steal the hearts out of the opponents. He would demoralize his opponents, and they'd be like, "Dang, we can't beat this dude." I will give you that.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'll say this: when your best ball player is your hardest worker, and everything in all the drills, sprints, everything, he doesn't want to lose. That tells you something right there.
That's true.
So. But we're gonna have to have it,
Yeah, especially when we get Najee back, we're gonna have that full debate. But you brought up another good point about, in old school, the way the defense was in the hand checking, right?
Yeah.
Now, they don't have they took that out. So you can't hand check players anymore. So that's where I do agree with the old heads when they say that the league was tougher back then, because there was a lot more physicality. Flagrant fouls nowadays were just common fouls back then. They allow players to be a lot more tougher and physical. And so would you agree that, like, obviously now it's just much softer now, like, they don't even really let you guard guys now, realistically. Like, you can play defense, but for the most part, like, if you compare it back to the old days, like, that defense was just much tougher.
Well, and another thing that I've seen change in the game was you weren't coming through the lane free.
No.
We could check you. We're gonna put that form in your chest and redirect you. We're not gonna let you just cut down the lane like that. I think I just think that the league, they went wrong when they wanted to score more points, right? But even that's a lie, because back in the 80s, man, the Denver Nuggets were scoring 125, 135, man. I mean,
Right.
they were scoring. Teams were scoring back in the 80s and 90s, man. So it wasn't like all the games were in the 60s and 70s. When you had two physical teams playing, well, you were going to have a low scoring game. But when you had a team coming to town that got the ball up out the net and up the floor, you went in for a treat, because you had Kiki Vandeweghe, Alex English, those cats, Fat Lever, those cats would score, man. Even the Mavericks back in the day, the Lakers.
Yeah.
They make it sound like when the Lakers and Celtics played that the game was 85 to 84. No, those games were in the triple digits, man. I think what it all comes down to, not just basketball, but also football and even baseball. Back in like the late 90s, they wanted offense. They felt like offense brought the fans in, but no, offense. The way the games are played right now, the true fans can't afford to get to those stadiums now because of that.
That's true.
Because now you got all them points, and now you go up those ticket prices, because now they think that that's going to bring basketball fans in. No, you're not bringing in the casual. You're not bringing in the diehard basketball fans. The diehard basketball fans either aren't watching it, or they're watching it at home. They're not going to the arenas.
Right.
So again, that's just my opinion. But I think they need to stop messing with the game. I mean, that 8 seconds to get the ball across half court, I don't like that. I don't like the analytics. I think that's killed basketball. And I'm not talking about the NBA right now. I'm just talking about the game as a whole, because you got kids that can't even shoot a mid-range jump shot shooting threes. They can't make a layup, but they want to shoot threes. You go into any gym in America and you watch 13, 14, 15-year-old kids in there shooting around, I guarantee you probably see one or two of them shooting mid-range or shooting layups. Everybody else shooting three-point shots or half-court shots. Seriously. So
no, you're right. And
that's just what I see when I'm in the gym. That's what I see, and it's like, man. But yeah, so I just think that we got to get the game back to where the defense isn't punished so much. I'm not saying go back. I'm not saying go back to the 80s where you can clothesline a guy in the air and slam him to the ground. Nah.
Right.
But what I am saying is, I'm not going to give you free reign to just run through the key.
Right.
Without me redirecting you with a form or whatever. And it's not going to be dirty or something like I'm going like this, but I'm just going to check you like I'm here. And you come in, I'm just going to redirect you like that. I'm going to push you that way. I'm not going to let you just go where you want to go.
I agree.
Just a little bit of that, a little bit more of that right there. And I think it'll, and I think what that's going to do too now is getting back to the skill part of the game. Now those guys going to have to figure out how to score, getting touched like that. Now they have to figure those things out. And I think it'll improve the game, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up some good points, especially with the analytics and how teams are basically strategizing to where we're either just going to take threes or we're getting to the rim. The mid-range shot statistically is not the most efficient shot, and for me, I always felt like that mid game is like if you master that, I mean, even floaters. Like I don't even see a lot of point guards. Like imagine if Russell Westbrook had a floater. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
he would literally be unstoppable. And obviously he had the mid range. There was a time where his mid range was amazing and it went away. But like, the threes and layups thing, it just like there's even guys on fast breaks who are just kicking it out. It's like a 3-on-1. They're kicking it out to a shooter at the 3-point line. And we're like, what is going on? Like the analytics, you're right, has taken over, not just the NBA, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And if we could somehow, obviously, but for me, it's like you want to be a 3-level scorer. Like you want to be able to score in the mid range, you want to be able to score in the 3, and you want to be able to take it in the lane. So we need to get back to that, telling the kids, telling the teens, everybody, work on that mid range, because if you master that, I mean, the greatest in the game, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all these guys, they were really good in the mid range. Kawhi Leonard, like these guys are borderline unstoppable when they get it going there. So that's a great point. And as far as like the physicality, like, it has a lot to do with it. It sucks, but the refs, like not to the point, obviously, like you said, to where people are clotheslining people. We can't have that, but you got to let these dudes be physical, man. Like these players are great as it is. These guys are talented, the most talented in the world. Like you got to let the defenders be physical, because you can't just like if the way it is now, it's really hard to really lock up. It's really hard to stop a lot of these players. These players are so great, especially when they're calling those ticky-tack fouls.
Mm-hmm.
The league has to, we talked about it a little bit, but Adam Silver, like you need to look at the officiating and really try to implement something to where we can allow players to be a little more physical, and guard, so they can actually guard. And that point, the brand of basketball will be better just from that, like allowing the players to be a little more physical. And then, like you said, also these teams, like obviously the analytics, you do want to look into the data, but at the same time, it can't be everything. It can't be like, okay, we're just taking 3s and 2s. I mean, in like layups, if you take a mid-range shot, a couple mid-range shots, you might get subbed out. Obviously if it's not, if that's not, within your offense, stuff like that. But like a guy like Shea, like he's well within to do that. Take the mid-range shot. If you're skilled enough to do it. Kawhi Leonard, take the mid-range shot. Like guys like that, Donovan Mitchell, take the mid-range shot. So I think I agree with you. I think if we can go back to, if we can just edge in the 3-level scoring thing, that would make it better. And then obviously if Adam Silver just, talks with the refs and implements something to where we can have a little more physicality. Would you say, I tell people this all the time, I feel like Michael Jordan would average like 45 in today's NBA. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Just because you can't touch him.
No.
No. I mean, and the funniest thing is he wouldn't have to shoot a lot of 3-point shots to average 45.
Nope.
He's going to get to the free throw line 10 to 12 times a game.
Easy.
So that's 12 points right there. He's plus on top of that, he's a really good free throw shooter. So he's going to make, 10 to 12. And if he shoots 12 on any given night, he's going to make 10 or 11 of those 12. Right?
Yeah.
But I tell you, if you go back and you look at the basketball, look at the score boxes and for the last, 10 years, right? And you're looking at the analytics and all that stuff. The same 4 things are true today that were true back in the day. Defensive field goal percentage, rebounding, assist to turnover ratio, and what am I missing here? Oh goodness, what am I missing?
Maybe like what, like rebounding percentage or something?
Yeah. No, just rebounds. Total rebounds, team rebounds. The teams that win those, let's say those 3, right? The teams that win the most of those out of those 3, if you win 2 out of 3, you win in those games. That's the game. You want You want to hold your opponent to a low field goal percentage. You want to out rebound them, and you want to take better care of the basketball. If you do those three things right there, you're going to win a lot of basketball games. I don't care how many threes you take, because here's the thing. I mean, you seen for yourself in Game 4. The Spurs hit 14 threes in the first half. They hit 3 in the second half. They shot 43 total threes. Now, if you add a mid-range game into that right there, they win the game. But when you're shooting 45, 50 threes a game, I'm a Boston fan, and I hate that. I hate that with a passion. I think 25 to 33 is a game. That right there, if you taking care of your business in those three categories, and you shooting 25 or 33 is a game, you're gonna win 60 games a season, easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think about when Oklahoma City back in the day, when they had Russell Westbrook and they had Steven Adams, and then they also had Enes Kanter. And a stat that really interested me was that those two bigs would get about 60% of offensive and defensive rebounds. So like they were just snagging boards, and that team won a lot of games. And then, Russell Westbrook, obviously they got far. Those Oklahoma City teams were always great. And I just think about we just don't talk about these stats like we should. Like these stats are what, defensive rebounding, like these are what win championships. These are what win high state games. And mainly, when you look at these sports talk shows, when you look at ESPN, First Take, all of these shows, they mainly just talk about, what was the offensive percentage? What was the 3 points? They talk about the 3-pointers. They talk about, they just show the highlights of the dunks and stuff.
Yeah.
And then a lot of players, they see themselves getting judged about that, on these shows. And then they think, and then it gets in their head and like, oh my God. But it's like, dude, you're a big man, and you play, you were rebounding, you were playing defense, you were outletting the ball to your guard, and you were helping them score. Stop worrying about what these Stephen A. Smiths are saying about you, what I'm saying, not shooting these threes or whatever. Like, I think players just let the media and all of these outlets get into their head about what should be happening and how they should be succeeding. But really, like you said, you boiled it down to those three statistics, and you got to symbolize it. I think we need to really just – basketball is a simple game, but I think the analytics and media outlets and all these people, they're complicating it. He said, I do know one thing: rigged NBA entertainment, just like rigged NFL football entertainment, WWF, probably WWE.
Yeah,
oh man,
he old school, because it used to be called the WWF.
Yeah.
My man Mark.
Oh, I mean, everyone is talking about that. I see so much stuff. I mean, it's happened more and more over the years that they're saying that these NBA and NFL, like all of these things, are just rigged and just for money and entertainment. I don't know, Marsell. What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna go back to the '90s.
Yeah,
the commercial for NBA, but for the NBA was, NBA entertainment is fantastic. So when you call it entertainment, people are gonna believe that is rigged.
Right.
Here's what I say. I think when it comes down to the officiating, especially in basketball, because I'm a basketball guy, I coach basketball, right? So my thing is, my job as a coach is to deal with the officials.
Right.
I don't want my players talking to the officials, right? And go back to Game 4, not to keep going back, but look at what Mike Brown was doing, what he was doing during the when they would shooting free throws, or it was a timeout. Waiting to come back from media timeout or whatever. You always saw him, he was talking to an official. And what he's doing is he's pleading his case for his team, right? because in the first half they called some they made some calls in the first half that I was like, I don't know about that call, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But you have to advocate for your players. You have to advocate for your team as a coach, And I didn't see Mitch Johnson doing much of that, right? So, um, and another thing as a coach, it's like, listen, we can't control what they're calling. We can't control them. We have two things we have control over: our attitude and our effort. We just got to play. Okay,
Amen.
we got to adjust our game according to how they're calling the game. If they're calling the game, if they're saying we're being too physical, okay, take a step back. Okay, we gonna back off a little bit. Okay, but as a coach, I'm making sure that on the other end of the floor, we got the ball. If they're doing to us what they're calling on us, we're gonna have a conversation. I'm like, hey, you made this call down here on my guy, saying that he was riding him, but when my guy's going on the other end of the floor and he's being ridden, there's not a whistle being blown.
Yeah.
So you have to talk to the officials, especially in basketball. I'm not gonna speak on football because that's not my thing, But basketball, you have to be able to advocate for your ball players, and it's a way you have to go about doing it. You can't if you go out there all up here, the official's gonna meet you right where you are. But if you're down here, he hear it. He can listen to you now because you're coming to him in a respectful manner, and you're saying, hey, can you watch 35, man? He out here killing my guy. He's grabbing jerseys, this, that, and the other. And they're gonna take that into consideration, and they're gonna think about that. Later in the game, they're gonna see something, and they blow that whistle. But so I can't say if it's rigged or not rigged, but just me being in from where I sit at, and when I watch a game, I'm looking at the coaches and how they go about politicking for their ball players, for their teams. If you got a guy that's not talking to the officials, then more times than not, your team ain't getting no calls.
Right. What'd she say? She said, "Oh, my mother." She said, "Officials are biased." I mean, in terms of them rigging games. I do think that the NBA does have an incentive for more games in a playoff series, right? Of course, if you have a 7-game series, you're going to draw in more attention. There's going to be more money made. So, there are times where it does look like, the refs are favoring a team. I'm not there's sometimes, especially when I was watching the Thunder, right? The Thunder, they would be able to just bomb rush teams with physicality. But on the other end, if you did the same type of physicality, they would call it on you. So it's tough, but if there is a way that it is rigged, you can look at the officiating and be like, okay, the NBA obviously had a little meeting with them before the game and said, hey, we need this series to extend. If we can extend this series, do it. And that's why sometimes you can see the officiating is swayed one way, I believe. What do you say? Mitch seems timid. You can tell Mike Brown is more seasoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was my point, though. He was talking on how he talked to the officials. See, he knows, hey, when he sees that the momentum is totally, completely over in San Antonio's favor, and he's seeing some calls that's being made that he's questioning, he's going to speak about that. He's going to talk about it, Now, going back to the comment about the bias. Now, this is what I will say. Now, they are biased to superstars because I mean, now we can go back through the years, and how many games have you seen LeBron James foul out?
Probably none.
Not picking on him. Picking on him. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. You look at all these guys, the superstars. They can go out there and they'll commit fouls, but the whistle won't blow.
Yeah.
But then if you go down the other end of the floor and you just brush by one of them, oh, that's a foul.
Yeah.
Now I do have one championship series that I knew had to be rigged. And that was the first Dallas Miami series.
Oh yeah, with
Dwayne Wade shot. If Dwayne Wade shot so many free throws in that series, man. I mean, it was like, yo, hold up. How's that a foul? I mean, he shot. I don't know how many he shot a game, but that cat was living on the free throw line. So yeah, fans do pay, yeah, they do pay to see the superstar, but at the same time, okay, put it this way. Fans pay to see the superstar. But so you can't complain about the officials being biased.
That's true.
Because they want to make sure that you get what you're paying for. So I mean, it's a give and take kind of thing.
Yeah. And Draymond Green talks about this a lot, how like, he'll have like a tough foul and it'll eventually lead to an ejection. But you see like a Jokic, completely just wham somebody when they get to the rim. And that foul was a lot more egregious. And, the NBA is like, it's a common foul. It's just a regular foul. Like, because they don't, you know what I'm saying? Or like they don't want these guys getting ejected because the fans pay to see the best players in the game. So, when we talk about, the NBA being rigged or games being rigged, you got to mainly look at, the officiating. I've heard some crazy conspiracy theories, Marsell. I've heard people say there's magnets in the rims and like these dudes are like the scores, these shots are all just magnets. I'm like, all right, come on. They're not doing that. Like let's get out of fantasy land there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you look at the officiating, if you want to look at it being rigged. But I mean, if you look at, I don't know, because other people bring up how there's crazy blowouts sometimes in these games. And you would think that, in the NBA or like in these games, right? Like that, these are two very talented teams, two teams that worked hard to get to the playoffs, two teams that could win the championship. And how are there crazy blowouts? I mean, I even think of like the 2016 series where LeBron came back 3-1. People hype up that series, but if you look at those games, there was blowouts left and right. One game, the Cavs would go crazy. In the next game, it was the Warriors. And, obviously people hype it up because of the LeBron, the comeback and stuff. But, like, I do think it's suspect sometimes how it seems like some teams, it's just like, did they even come to play? You know what I mean? Like, did they even, like, do they know they're in the playoffs?
Well, but you know what? I'll say this here. We all have bad days. We all have days where shots aren't falling and so on and so forth. And on the other side of the court, their shots are falling and they're playing better.
Right.
I'm never gonna say that that players are tanking or when a good team gets blown out, because every team has been blown out. I just think that there comes times in the season where you just hit a wall. It's just not your night, and you got to regroup. You get that blowout, you get blown out on Friday, and you come back on Tuesday, and then you right back, you hitting on all cylinders. I think it comes with the territory.
He said some teams just quit. Cleveland clearly wanted to get out of New York and into Cancun.
Well, you know what? That's my little brother. I think that's my little brother. But and you know what? I think Cleveland was done after that first game. When they were up by 22 points in the fourth quarter, and New York came back and beat them. That right there, man. That took everything out of them. And I think that demoralized them to be. I mean, and plus, again, I don't know how many games they played, but you played when you what at 90 games in.
Yeah,
that's taxing. That's mentally taxing as well as physically taxing. So, in the next year, like I said, this is the next year. They came back, they won that game, and they were like, "Hey, all right, we played 3 bad quarters. We back hitting on all cylinders now." And they made light work out of it.
It's true. It's true. Very good topic again today. shout out to you, Marsell. It's always great talking with you and Najee about these sports topics.
Yeah, old Najee. Najee getting this groove on now.
Yeah, yeah. And, hopefully his Knicks win. But tune in every Friday at 8 p.m., Sports Talk. And we'll be back next week. Bless up.
Leave it, baby.